Hello and welcome to Into the Black Archive. Wow, it's been a while. I think we've done this properly. I think we've hit the red square properly. Who knows? Maybe we've just gone back in time 10 years and David Tennant and Donna are still on Doctor Who and David Cameron is back around. But who knows? But we're back after a year of hiatus to talk more Who, as more Who has come after its very long hiatus. So, as always, to discuss the long hiatus is James Stevenson.
The dormant sleep of Doctor Who and the dormant sleep of Black Archive as well. We're back after, 3 Prime Ministers? I'm trying to keep track of how many we've had.
I think that's when we last recorded a normal episode, but we had one on New Year's. So we have, I think...
Oh, right. So we are on the same Prime Minister, barely.
Since we last spoke, yes. I think this is the first one we've recorded in over a year, but we have technically had an episode out this year, I think, technically.
I think we barely had one. But no, we're back, and that is because, obviously, after the long wait, new Doctor Who is back, or shall I say old Doctor Who, for the 60th anniversary, which is celebrating old Doctor Who.
It feels weird to be here We've just had the Children in Need special with David Tennant in it, and it's a big set piece thing, and it's just like, wow, here's again.
It's like we've completely hit the reset button. We had the Children in Need special, and then we had Doctor Who Unleashed come out. Confidential in all but name. And it just feels like we're right back to the good old days in a way that sort of, I don't know whether that feels 100% right. Like, it kind of feels like we're treading over old ground for the sake of nostalgia. But
yeah,
I like it.
I think it's very good at the moment. It does come back to things which I know we've discussed before on the podcast, like when Russell T Davies got announced and David Tennant is coming back, of are we just rehashing nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia instead of going forwards? And how far can we go?
I think the answer to that question is yes. But the actual question should be, is that a bad thing? Yes, if it goes on forever.
Yeah.
Yes. But given the fact that these specials are essentially just going to be like a big cookout where we're just going for everything and having a bit of fun before the proper new series start, then fun.
Yeah. Good old happy fun. So speaking about the Children in Need special, shall we quickly just discuss that, because that came out last Friday during the big BBC Children in Need telethon. We had our first proper look at David Tennant once again stepping into the shoes of the Doctor. Was it good, James? Is it everything you could have ever hoped for? Do you want to just sit there and watch it again and again on the loop?
The first thing I did after watching the Children in Need special was just go and watch back bits of Series 4 again, because it just made me excited because David Tennant was back. And yes, I know that he's the 14th Doctor now, but he's basically the 10th Doctor and we all know it, and there's no point pretending. And he even does, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry about 30 seconds in. So there's no hiding. You know, it's a Children in Need sketch. There's no point reading too deeply into these things, but it was very good fun. It's rare that Doctor Who actually makes me laugh anymore. Certainly in the Chibnall era, those laughs were few and far between. Mm-hmm. So to have something that was genuinely funny, packed with references, great fun. Yeah, I feel like we're really back for whatever this new era is.
For one criticism I have seen of it, though, goes on to we keep bringing back old people. I saw lots of criticism about Murray Gold's comedic chops when it comes to music and how it was very distracting. Did you?
Do you know what? I haven't thought about it, but now you've mentioned it, the music is a bit odd. I don't think it ruins it or anything, but it's a bit odd. It's all a bit, it's a bit cantina.
Yeah, it doesn't quite feel like it's properly. It seems to transition to. I think by the fact it's only a 5-minute sketch, we go from serious big noises to comedic stuff way too fast, and the transition just isn't there. It's really
and it's not even like a little bit comedic, is it? No. It's genuinely like it's basically that.
Yeah, you've basically just gone into a Star Wars cafe.
That do be the cantina. It's a bit jarring, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it ruins it, but I see the point.
Yeah.
He's better at doing drama.
Yeah, he's better than doing the big, impactful beats, isn't he? Rather than...
I mean, that's another question. I mean, Murray Gold being back, is that a good thing beyond the nostalgia, or would you have preferred to see somebody new do it? Because this whole era now seems to be bringing back all the old faces.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, I think I've said it before. Is Murray Gold for some reason bring Murray Gold back was the thing which broke the camel's back for me. Of where's the new blood? We're literally just bring everyone Rusty Davies initially brought in. Like, surely there's more musicians willing to do music for Doctor Who.
I think Russell's thinking must be that Murray Gold has reached an almost John Williams-like level of deference over Doctor Who, where having him not do it would be odd. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, we had Second Akinola during the Chibnall era, and actually that music was pretty good.
And also, as well, another angle of this is, as I said, we've had a massive hiatus of Doctor Who. I've been filling that in with Big Finish stuff. Their music they've got is really good as well. Why aren't we looking more into like for getting the Big Finish musicians in and things like that? Like, there are people around who could do this sort of stuff, but we just seem to be.
Yeah, well, you know, Big Finish get all the crumbs. I mean, what in the Children in Need special, 14 says, "Oh, it took 60 minutes ago. I was this brilliant woman," and that just means Big Finish gets 60 minutes to work with for expanded stories.
You think that, but that is false news.
Oh, is it false?
That 60 minutes is already accounted for within the Titan comics.
Good lord, are they efficient now? Every minute of Tennant will be documented.
Yeah, no. If there's a gap, some sort of expanded media will fill it up, and that is just a given.
Big Finish are going to have to get him doing the video diaries again. You remember the video diaries he did during season 2? His first season. They're just going to have him do that, but as the Doctor.
Oh, God. Have you heard...
I thought Children Need was good.
Have you heard some of the controversy around Big Finish recently?
You'll have to fill me in on it. I mean, you know that you're more plugged into the expanded stuff than I am.
They've had allegedly, they've had some of their agreements more restricted. They can't go off and use particular characters anymore.
I imagine, is that because Russell's sort of put we've got these, so lay off?
No one knows. And also they've been told they can't make any more unbound Doctors. Like, they can't make any more custom Doctors.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that differentiates, if you've watched, the Russell T Davies Doctor Who back in the day when Tennant was there, you felt like the canon in that era was a lot harder. Like, episodes referenced other episodes, characters came back from other episodes, there was a clear linear line going through with different characters. I mean, just think of like Dalek Khan and Ood Sigma and characters like that who would pop up and then have this arc over multiple series. And obviously, the Doctor canon was fairly locked in. And even under Moffat, it was relatively locked in. And then when we got to Matt Smith's Regeneration, we did the whole reset, the regeneration cycle thing. And then in Chibnall, everything went to absolute madness. And then we had Timeless Children. Is this Russell trying to somehow wrestle the canon of Doctor Who back into something that's tangible?
I'm going to change that question to is it possible? Because of the nature, the nature of Doctor Who, and just the nature of the butterfly effect, every time we change something, realistically, if we followed it all as sort of like a consistent track of canon, we'd be all out of joint anyway.
Oh, exactly. The good thing about a time travel show is that you can overwrite yourself.
Like, this is for 60th anniversary. Would we be at the 60th anniversary if we kept a canon?
Imagine if everything that happened on Doctor Who was canon, including Big Finish, including everything else, and that it was completely unquestionable, and how contradictory that would be.
My rule is it's whatever the showrunner Alpha for Time says is canon is canon. That's it.
Yeah, we had Russell's canon back when he was doing it, and then Moffat felt he had to explain how he was going to completely ruin that canon with the crack in the wall and resetting the universe. And then Chibnall's just kind of, vibed his way through the last few years on canon and blew up the entire universe apart from the Earth at the end and just sort of said, happens. But now maybe we'll have something a bit more tangible. I'll be interested to see if when we actually get into the new episodes, I think, or even with the specials, how linked they will be to the Russell era in terms of canon stuff there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that brings us sort of into the special arena because we've heard which Flux and Timeless Children aren't being taken away, and they will be discussed on some levels in the Wild Blue Yonder. Which, I mean, I think you're happy to hear which Timeless Children and Flux will be coming back. We'll work out how damaged the universe is, because we all know it's completely battle scarred, and the Earth is the only thing which exists.
One thing I'll give Russell T Davies is that he's a ballsy man. If he's going to attempt to explain that away, you are a ballsy man. I genuinely thought the best approach would be, let's say he doesn't want to include the Timeless Children or Flux or things that happen in the Chibnall era and wants to go his own way. Surely the best way would just be to kind of forget about it and just not bring it up.
A lot like how for Brains Morpheus did it, where we discovered in Brains Morpheus, which there were doctors prior to First Doctor, but instead of sort of making a conscious decision to override it in the vein of Moffat with a crack, it just kind of just never got mentioned again. And how in the TV movie we found out which the Doctor is half human, but that never got consciously overwritten. It's just kind of never mentioned again.
Yeah, I like the fact that any time that's brought up now with showrunner people, it's always just the Americans did that. We don't count.
Yeah, it's. But the Eighth Doctor's the best.
If there's one Doctor actually, if we're talking about the Whoniverse, which we'll get onto, I think, and if we want an expanded spin-off, surely Paul McGann deserves one more than anyone else.
Yeah,
surely.
I still hope so. There's always hope within my heart, which Paul McGann comes back again at some point.
I think it will happen in some way. It's just a question of how. I mean, the good thing is with all of this, all of this great new Disney money, it seems to be that there's no end to the possibilities now. So maybe. But yeah, we shouldn't focus on the Whoniverse just yet. I mean, that's to come. Main thing is those specials.
Yes, so for Star Beast, Wild Blue Yonder, and The Giggle. Now, I've actually got a question about these for you, because my view on how this is going to play out has changed dramatically.
Well, where was it before? And then for the listeners, where was it before? And now where has it got to?
So initially, I thought it was all going to be, much like Flux, be one serialised story across the three. But I'm starting to go off that idea. I don't think it will anymore.
I don't think they're going to be heavily connected. I'm with you in that what we've seen out of the trailers and how they've been promoted is as very separate things. They'll be linked initially, obviously, but
initially in the initial sort of the snapshots we got in Christmas last year, over Christmas, it all really targeted very much on, we've got some people coming in, and then we've got the toy maker involved somehow. But now, from what we learn about these episodes, particularly Wild Blue Yonder is going to be the one which I think catches us all out, because that's one we know nothing about. It's pretty much completely studio done.
We've seen barely anything of it. It's been very much kept out of the trailers. I mean, there's clips. I mean, anything that's kind of on that ship that we've seen. For example, that "why does it have to be me" line is going to be from there, and everything. But I mean, that could be anything. And I know you said that. I know Russell said that it's going to sort of cover Flux and Timeless Children. So maybe that is the headfuck episode, if you will.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how they will. I think it's going to be a traditional Russ T Davies one. Now we sort of we don't know, but based on what things would piece together, I think it's now going to be separate stories with connecting arcs rather than just a solid serialization.
I think the best comparison is, if we're thinking about Russell specifically, if we think back to 2009, when you had Planet of the Dead, The Waters of Mars, The End of Time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're linked, but
Are
in
they linked that
reality, those
much?
are three very separate specials. Well,
I
they're
haven't
sort of
really
linked
watched.
with the prophecy. You know, at the end of Planet of the
Yeah.
Dead, and there's the woman that was on the bus. I think her name's Carmen, and she goes up to the Doctor and goes, "You know, your song is ending, and when he will knock 4 times, and then that's the recurring thing."
I think this will be more connected than that. I think it's going to be very. I think it's going to be a case of it won't take place over 3 days, but it's going to take place of like after everything will go from one place to one place to one place in one solid timeline. Where
I think that's probably
whereas
right.
with the earlier specials, it was very much Big Finish has made a series between each special because it was so long.
Which is great fuel for Big Finish.
Exactly.
They need those scraps to live off of. Yeah, I do think they'll be a lot more closely connected, and the fact that they're releasing week after week after week almost demands that. But they will feel separate. It does definitely feel like, I mean, this is just my theory, but to me, Starbeast is going to be the one that deals with the Russell canon and sort of the loose ends that's picking back up, mainly how on earth will Donna be able to remember the Doctor without her head exploding? That's obviously a good question that we need an answer to. And then I think the other 2 episodes will go further off that track and we'll get closer to what the new Who is and what Shooty's season will be and where we'll be going beyond this.
Yeah.
It's like we're building a bridge between what we've had and what's to come, and that this is us finding out how we'll get there.
Yeah, because this is actually the ending, isn't it, really, of New Who? Because we've found out recently which next season is starting off from season 1. So this is the end of New Who. We're going into New Who.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of it like that. I almost forgot that was happening. Well, actually, no, it's the start, because you know when you go onto the Whoniverse iPlayer that they've got all of the shows on now, and they have it marked as Doctor Who 2005 to 2022.
I still don't have it dated when I go on my iPlayer.
I saw it first day because obviously I watched Tales of the TARDIS, which might be worth maybe a separate conversation in itself. And I clearly saw it, Doctor Who 2005 to 2022.
I, for some reason, saw this as the end of New Who, and then we go into New Who with Suchi's era.
I think it's both the start and the end.
Is that
I know that sounds such a cop out, doesn't it?
How painful is that fence to sit on by any chance?
Oh, awful! It's going right up my ass. It's got pickets and everything. No, but in all seriousness, I think it will be a great big celebration of what we've had in the last 18 years, and probably beyond, because I don't rule out Russell doing some tricks. I know, obviously, all the focus is on Tennant, Donna, having Bernard Cribbins back, God rest his soul, for a little bit, all of that stuff. But if you're doing the 60th anniversary, you do have to celebrate the whole 60 years. We can't just have the whole thing be, oh, do you remember 2008? 2008 was fun.
I mean, it does sort of feel like we're doing that, though, doesn't it, really? A little bit.
I mean, that's kind of how it's been marketed, but I don't think it will end up being that way. I think the first episode will.
Yeah.
And then we'll go off and it'll get more wide.
So on the topic of how this is meant to be bringing back, sort of like looking back on some old Doctor Who stuff, something which was interesting, which got said by Rusty Davis, that he's going to try and put the Daleks to one side going forward, right? He said which
I've heard that.
He wanted to break it. I don't want them to. I don't want them to be relegated.
I understand. Take the Daleks out for the first season of Shooty. I'm actually on board with that, because when you have a really good villain, and let's face it, we haven't come up with a better one in 60 years, you shouldn't use them all the time because they lose their impact. I think leave them for a season.
You can only defeat an undefeatable enemy so many times until it starts getting a little bit ridiculous.
I think it would be great if the Daleks do show up in the 60th. I don't want them to be the main villain, because obviously they kind of are in the 50th, but not really. They're there, obviously, but to be honest, the villain of the Doctor is the Doctor in that, in a way, which is, I think, why I like the 50th, and it's one of Moffat's better things. But yeah, I would like the Daleks to feature, but don't make them the focus. I think the focus needs to be 14, Donna. Neil Patrick Harris could be your main villain when you get there. Figure out the other bits.
Do you think, how involved do you reckon the Toymaker's going to be throughout for 3 episodes? Or is it just going to be for giggle?
Teases in the first. I think he might have something to do with what happens in Wild Blue Yonder, because I think it's going to be a bit, and this isn't based on much, but I have a feeling it's going to be really trippy.
Yeah.
Because if you're justifying a 60th anniversary special, which is almost purely in studio, stuff has got to be happening that is very out there.
A bit like I've completely forgotten the legendary one, which everyone loves about Peter Capaldi.
Oh, like
Heaven Sent, that's the one. So like Heaven Sent kind of dealio, where it's very introspective, but it's all in studio.
Yeah, that would make sense. And then if it's the Toymaker messing around with reality, that would add up.
Yeah.
So maybe he's like an off-screen force in that. And then, in the final one, you see him in his full power.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to be how they do it. But there's obviously there's loads of theories going about this special. I mean, have you seen the one about that there's going to be 2 Doctors at once, supposedly?
Yeah, because I forgot what was said, but didn't Suchi say something? Someone said something about how they worked with the other one. I can't remember whether it was David Tennant or Suchi said, I worked with him, or I met him, or something along those lines. But we never really saw what.
Yeah, I mean, I've not really seen the context for this rumor, but I've seen it pop up at a lot of places that supposedly there will actually be 2 Doctors, and instead of 2 Doctors on screen, no, 2 Doctors existing simultaneously, and that's somehow going to be related to the Meta Crisis Doctor that we had in Journey's End.
I think that's a bit more of a push. I think
that's push.
I think Meta Crisis is well and truly done and dusted now.
To be fair, he really wanted to do Rose Tyler Earth Defense that one time. Has he let that go?
Yeah, but also I feel like that was a while ago now.
Yeah, but we have gone back to Donna Noble and named her daughter Rose. So
yeah,
how far are we removed?
But we do also have one other returning character which does link it to the classics. Mel Bush is coming back.
Yes, because we've definitely seen her in trailers. Yeah. I know she's in the background, but there is a definite shot in the giggle where she's there. So that's a link back. It's just, I mean, it's going to be so packed with stuff. I almost admire in a way that, like, we know a bit, but we don't know a massive amount.
Yeah, which is... It's something which has kind of annoyed me a little bit with this promotion, is that we've been waiting for so long. I'm just not sure how good for promotion. Like, don't get me wrong, before people come and hunt me down, it's better than Chibnall. But...
Oh, yeah, there's way more promotion than we had.
I feel like we've spread out for promotion for this too thin. Like, I feel like if we had it all within the last month, it would be perfect. But because we've had little snippets being dropped in over the course of over a year, it feels like we've just not had that much.
I feel like that they've sort of had to make the marketing campaign so long to fill in how long the gap's been. Because obviously we have now been over a year without a New Who episode at all.
Yeah.
No special, no nothing. We had the first trailer play out immediately after the regeneration. So that was back in October. Yeah. Then they started releasing those, those little quick stingers on BBC One at random points at the start of the year. Then there was Eurovision night, where they decided to go hard with another trailer. Then they got Catherine Tate to read out the points. Mm-hmm. Like, it all seemed that felt like something you would do 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
And they were doing it 6 months before.
Or at least when you had a major announcement. So, like, if they did that sort of thing and then went with Catherine Tate going, I'll see you in November with Doctor Who, and that was the first we ever heard about it.
That would make a whole load of sense.
More sense. But it just feels like we just had lots of little things just needlessly dropped in, which just made it feel like it was just so spread out thin.
It's felt like they're trying to sustain it over a really long period, and so they have to just do a little thing every so often. So instead of it just being all the time, it's more, hey, you haven't forgotten that there's this happening, you haven't forgotten that there's this happening, and they do it enough that you can't.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole issue with how long it took to actually confirm the dates. Which, when you think you're promoting a huge show where you've clearly invested a lot of money and you're now working with Disney and Sony to make it look as good as it does, you know how many viewers it's going to get. Like, this will get watched. This will probably be the biggest drama content the BBC put out this year. That would be my thinking, because of the fact it's Tennant, really. Surely you're going to promote the date way out. And yet we were in this strange thing waiting for EPGs to come out to find out the date.
But I have to be honest with you here. I'm not outside of Doctor Who, I'm becoming less and less of a TV watcher. Isn't that kind of what we do with every other TV show? Even the big hitters. We get told, like, coming out November 2023, which is basically what we had. And that's what most shows get, though, isn't it?
Maybe now, but that's more like... It's more like a streaming service, and even then, you sort of know the dates once you start getting into the main campaign. You know, like when you go to the train station and they've got the big ad board for the show, and then, you know, the date's always on. They're keeping the date in your mind. It just feels like the dates were an afterthought with this, and they've just kind of been like, oh, we've been shouting you for this for a year. We're just going to put it out then. Sorry if you can't make it, but, you know, we had to make a late call. So, you know, come if you want, come if you don't.
I think we've got enough time to quickly mention the other 60th anniversary celebratory thingies which have been going on. You've mentioned one already, part of the Whoniverse. The Tales of the Tardis. I remember what I'm talking about. So
I was waiting to see how long you could suffer before you remembered.
So I have to be honest here, I haven't watched any of them, but you've already said you have. How are they?
I've not watched like the whole, I've watched the new bits. Yeah. So eventually you work out that effectively they filmed an opening section, a closing section, and what you get in the middle is a slightly edited down version of a classic Who story.
Yeah.
Which is sort of been scaled up as much as they can, and it's been put in as much quality as they can. It's really nice. Mm-hmm. It's really, really nice. Like, it's obviously like a great big hit of nostalgia, and it's nice to visit characters again. Go watch the Jamie and Zoe one. It's really, really lovely.
How contrived is them meeting up again?
To be honest, they don't really explain it, and they sort of make fun of the fact that they would even try to.
Okay.
I think that Russell completely understands that this is entirely ridiculous, and so it's sort of written in that way.
Particularly when it comes to Jamie, how he was sent back to his original time the moment he left and forgot everything. You can't really write him back.
Do you know how they actually? Do you want me to tell you how they argue it?
Yes.
So, in the first episode, which is with Peter Davison and Nessa.
Yeah.
Nissa. Basically, this is like, how are we here? And then Peter Davison gets to do another mumbo-jumbo monologue where he basically says, well, actually, this TARDIS is a memory TARDIS.
Okay.
And it's powered off of memories, which basically translates to...
We couldn't think of a good way.
We're basically in a dream, folks.
Yeah.
Like, don't think about it too seriously. You're getting to see characters you haven't seen in 40 years. Please don't complain.
Don't do what I'm doing and pick it up.
Yeah, don't pick holes in this. We're having a good time. It's very much, look, we know it's a bit ridiculous, but it's nice. And it does turn out to be really nice.
That's good. And of course, the other thing which has been announced, which is actually really interesting, because I think it's something which we both enjoyed. Of course, the first episode of Doctor Who is getting recolorized for Daleks. If you're listening to this, it's already available on iPlayer, but because of the wonders of time traveling and recording, it has not come out yet, so we can't comment on the quality or anything. But is this a good thing?
I've seen stills of it. It looks definitely into good quality. It's interesting to compare it to, because obviously we watched it in black and white for the podcast back when we started. It's interesting to compare it to how I imagined the colour would be against how the colour actually is. It is miles away from what I pictured.
I think my only issue is, with at least from the stills, is the colouring of the TARDIS. The colouring of the TARDIS just seems too bright and too blue. The floor,
it's a little bit pastel.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the thing is just to go with it. The thing I'm more interested in outside of the colouring is the fact that when it airs on BBC4, the new one, obviously it's aired now if you're listening to this, it's been edited down into a 75-minute version, which is apparently more suitable for modern audiences.
Which, to be fair, I do remember our main complaint with the Daleks as a series of episodes is that it was too long with too much padding. So,
I agree with this. But the original was like double that length, so they're trying to lop half of it off at least.
So,
which is a lot to lop off.
I guess we'll see what they lob off, which we'll see later. But there's no point dwelling on that right now because everyone else can see, but we don't.
Maybe it's just going to be the storyline is going to be completely changed. Maybe the Daleks are the good guys in the BBC4 version.
Bit of a question which deviates from the quality of this specific case, because we've also seen rumours of it happening for War Games as well, which that's a 10-parter. Is it right for us to be editing down these episodes, taking it? Because I can we can get around the colouring issue. The colouring issue was a restriction of the time. If the option of doing colour TV was there, I'm sure Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert would have taken it. But is it right for us to be cutting down these stories? As a writer, how would you feel if someone came in 60 years' time and started cutting apart your scripts?
I think the difference with what we're talking about here is that no one is suggesting that the 75-minute version of the Daleks is the replacement for the original.
Yeah.
I view it as, say, if I was a musician and I wrote a song and I wanted it to get successful, well, usually you want someone to do like a house remix of it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's completely changing like the frame of your song. If you've written like, I don't know, a folk song or a whatever, and someone's gone and made an EDM track and they've added a drop and all sorts, it's completely different. But it doesn't replace what you actually made. That still exists. It's just someone's having a bit of fun with it. So I don't mind it as long as we're not acting like it's a replacement.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just throwing it on this 75-minute version just to sort of see how it goes. Maybe it will turn out to be a bit better. Maybe it will be more refined, but don't think it will replace the original. There'll still be the option to watch the original in how it's been presented before.
Yes. So I think that brings us to the end of predictions and talk about the 60th anniversary. So unless you've got anything else you want to say, James?
No, I think just mainly that it's nice to be really, really excited about Doctor Who again. And in some ways it's a shame that we had to go backwards in writers to do that. But look, Russell's got this because it's not like he did a bad job before. And when he wasn't doing Doctor Who, he was making some of the best television in Britain.
So yeah,
we have an excellent writer doing this. We'll be fine. These will be good episodes, I think. And I think we're going to really enjoy them.
So join us on Monday where we can dive deep into our first impressions of that brand new Doctor Who episode with a juicy bit of David Tennant and Russell T Davies back in the driver's seat. Will it be a disaster of expectation management, or as James says, will it all be all right in the end? And that's the end of us here in the Black Archive. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to go back and listen to how this all began 60 years ago, you can go back and listen to our back catalogue. We've got all of the black and white series of Who, and we hope to be coming back with doing some more old episodes after Christmas.
It's all good fun. We will see you next week, the following week, and the following week.
So you'll find us on social media at Black Archive Pod. That is on Twitter and on Instagram now, because Twitter is now a burning hellscape. And you can, of course, if you want to, you can email us, blackarchivepod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening and have a good day.